Beginning to end process, taking a photo, getting it into Lightroom, editing, exporting. My name is Nancy, your photography teacher. Check out my website, nancysmiley.com. Let's dive in. When I first turned on my camera, my ISO was 80, shutter speed 320, aperture 2.8. So first I have to dial in my exposure settings. Now, this is not the scene from the actual photo that we are going to edit, but the photo that we edit later in the video, I'm using ISO 100, aperture 2.8, and shutter speed 1/1000th of a second. The shutter speed is high because it is very bright and sunny, and the photo would be overexposed if I didn't increase my shutter speed. And I'm using a 105mm lens. Back at home, I plug my memory card directly into my computer and I launch Lightroom Classic. Click into the library module and click import in the bottom left corner. Now all of the images that are on your memory card are going to appear in the center of Lightroom Classic, and over on the right hand side is where you choose where you want the photos to be imported to. Now there's other options here where you can rename your photos, you can apply presets upon importing. I teach all of that in my Lightroom Classic course. So right now I'm choosing my master photos folder on my external hard drive, going to 2025, going into May, and then importing these images. This is the image that we are going to edit together. So bear with me as I walk you through this, but ultimately I always start by changing the blacks and whites, highlights and shadows. And I do tweak this by holding down the Option key on my keyboard, because this shows me if there's ever going to be any clipping in the image or any parts where the photo colors or whites are too oversaturated and they're not going to print well or appear on screen well. So this is something that I also teach in my Lightroom Classic course. If you're someone who's just going into Lightroom and just adjusting these sliders until it looks good and you're not really sure what exactly you're doing, my course would be great for you. So now we're going to go ahead and apply some sharpening here. Again, I hold down the Option key so I can manipulate exactly where on the photo the sharpening is applied and how strong. And then I forgot that I needed to add a little bit of vibrance, so I go back into the basic panel and I tweak the blacks a little bit and add in my vibrance. Next up, we're going to go ahead and jump into the tone curve. First, I start with the parametric curve and I play with the highlights and the shadows to give the image a little bit of like a light and airy look. And then I jump over into the point curve where I apply some contrast to the image. After this, we're going to go ahead and close out the tone curve and jump into color grading. I'm just going to apply like a warmer tone to the midtones for this image and then go from there and see if there's something else that I want to add in later on. Now, I like to always go into the color mixer when I'm taking photos surrounded by greens, which I always am here in Jersey. And I do like to keep the greens. I don't like to turn them totally brown or just mute them completely, but I tone them down just a little bit so that they're not like super, super intense. So again, if using the color mixer or the color grading or the tone curve is something that is just totally off limits to you, you should check out my Lightroom Classic course on my website. Now we're going to jump into the masking. Anytime I take a portrait like this, I like to tweak the facial skin, make the eyes pop a little bit more, and sometimes whiten teeth. Of course, I only do this if my client requests it, and I would not do this if they didn't want this done. Now, this is my own daughter, so I'm gonna go ahead and do these things, but obviously when it comes to like skin softening, when you're dealing with little kids, you wanna go really, really light here. You don't want it to be like, they don't need to look like a plastic doll or anything like that. So you do have to be careful not to overdo it. Now, the masking tool is really easy with all of Lightroom Classic's new upgrades where you can just choose the Iris Enhance preset and stuff like that. So this part's pretty self-explanatory. But after I do those portrait enhancements, I go ahead and add in a radial mask. This is basically just another way to choose a different type of the photo, right? So radial mask allows you to make like a circular shaped mask. And I like to do this to add like a warm center light to my photo. So my daughter is directly in the center of the frame here. So I'm adding in that radial mask, increasing the exposure just a tiny bit and increasing the temperature to make it like a little bit warmer. And again, this puts like a soft center glow on her in the image. Now that masking's done, I'm going to go over into crop. You always want to change your aspect ratio if you're going to be printing images so that it doesn't just automatically crop your image really weird. So I changed my aspect ratio and cropped the image to my liking. Now we're going to go ahead and export by going back to the library module, clicking File, clicking on Export. At the top, you choose where you want to export your photo. Again, I recommend doing an external hard drive, so you would go in there and select the location there. Next up, you have file naming. You can put in a custom renaming if you would like, and then you get down to the file settings. So I'm exporting this just for print for use on Instagram. So I'm going to decrease the quality here, and you always want to make sure that you are in sRGB. Pixels for portrait photos like this on Instagram should be 1200, and the resolution you're going to want to bring down to 72 pixels per inch. This makes it so that Instagram doesn't compress the photo itself and give your image like a pixelated look when it's opened up all the way. You should definitely do this in Lightroom to get the best results. I know that was a lot of information. I tried to make it fast, but also thorough. So if you have questions, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, you can check out some of my courses or my free Lightroom editing checklist on my website, nancysmiley.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.